Few questions.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. The first thing I want to dive into here is how you've seen volunteerism change communities for the better. And I'm sure you've got a lot of examples of that, but is there a powerful example that comes to mind?
The answer is that it's innumerable. And maybe I would connect it to where we are today as a society. Millions of Americans are waking up every day with their first thought being, what can I do to help somebody else? What can I do to deliver a meal? What can I do to deliver peace? What can I do to take care of someone else? And it is fundamentally the fabric of the nation that we are in, and the reason why the Jefferson Awards was founded now nearly 50 years ago.
I love that thought that there are so many people waking up right now wondering what they can do to help someone else. And you spoke about the current situation that we find ourselves in. No secret that volunteerism looks a little different right now, mainly because of the pandemic that we find ourselves still to be in. And obviously there are a lot of guidelines and rules to follow when it comes to social distancing and being able to gather, something that we traditionally do in order to volunteer. But there are still many people who see their friends and their neighbors struggling and they would like to help them. So I'm wondering, what are some meaningful ways that you think people can volunteer right now?
I mean, what we've seen is that people are doing what they can within the context of their normal everyday. Meaning, in New York City, as an example, there's something called the Roadrunners Club. We'll go out every day for a run. Those people were called upon through Roadrunners to say, if you're out for a run anyway, pick up a meal and deliver it to somebody who can't leave their home. There are so many ways today to be safe, to help others, and whether that's buying a meal from a local restaurant or whether that's volunteering for a suicide hotline. People are ingenious in this moment to think, what are my own personal strengths? What can I do in the context of my day? And then finding safe ways to do it.
Beyond the impact that we can see, we also know that service feels good, and there's a mental health link to it. What can you tell us about that?
There is something about the act of helping somebody else that has nothing to do with doing it for yourself, that does just make you feel good, and it makes you feel connected. It's also empowering, right? Particularly in this moment. In this moment, what we are seeing is people feel helpless. And the act of helping somebody else is the opposite of helpless. And the incredible creativity and ingenuity and generosity and bravery and kindness that goes with service is one of the things that does connect us to each other. And I know that every last one of us is craving human connection.
Well, after the break, we've got more inspiring stories highlighting volunteers right here in the Chippewa Valley and beyond. But first,
it's not a decrease because people's hearts aren't open to volunteering. We just had to be safe.
How the COVID-19 pandemic is impacting volunteers today and the organizations they serve. That story just 1 minute away. Keep it here. Welcome back. Fewer people are volunteering nowadays due to COVID-19, but the need for volunteers is high. Our own Katrina Lim spoke with several area nonprofit leaders to learn how the pandemic has impacted volunteering at their organizations.
Many fundraising events have either been canceled or postponed these past few months, but there are still ways you can serve your community.
Normally, our problems are solved by coming together. And here we are having the problem be coming together.
Officials from the United Way of the Greater Chippewa Valley say they've seen a large decrease in the number of volunteers at nonprofits in our area.
It's not a decrease because people's hearts aren't open to volunteering. We just had to be safe.
At St. Francis Food Pantry in Eau Claire, Executive Director Christy Matei says they usually have between 10 and 20 volunteers a day, but many of them have stepped back because they're immunocompromised.
Before the pandemic, we have volunteers that come in 6 days a week. A lot of our volunteers are over the age of 65, so they fall into the group of where they should be more careful and stuff like that. So right now we're working with only about 8 volunteers.
For the pantry, the health crisis has also resulted in the loss of thousands of pounds of food donations.
Usually we rely on the Boy Scout food drive and the large postal food drive. It happens once a year for each of those organizations. It brings in a lot of food for us. So instead we're having to purchase more food to make up for the poundage that we're not getting from that.
The Sojourner House in Eau Claire made adjustments as well, temporarily moving its location to Hobbs Ice Arena so guests could social distance and to increase its services.
We went from being an overnight shelter, only providing services during 7 p.m. to 8 a.m., and now we are working with our community partners to provide services 24 hours a day. And so that's definitely increased our need for volunteers.
Although the homeless shelter needs more volunteers, Director Brianne Barris says they've struggled to find help.
Trying to find volunteers throughout the COVID-19 pandemic has been challenging. It definitely has brought about some different areas where the need to find volunteers who are younger that maybe otherwise have jobs or children or families definitely has been different.
Sojourner staff usually need volunteers to serve meals, check in guests, and change the beds. With the growing issue of homelessness in the Chippewa Valley, Sojourner House officials say they're not only looking for volunteers, but more staff members as well.
All right, thanks, Katrina. For a list of volunteer opportunities, just visit WQOW.com. Well, back to our Jefferson Award winners for the month of May. We celebrated a woman who spends most of her free time helping others at the Senior Center and Chippewa Valley Museum. Her name is Gladys Webb.
Pretty good.
Gladys Webb is a greeter at the Ellie Phillips Senior Center. The way she tells it, every week she spends a couple hours hanging out with her friends. Even the mail carrier is excited to see her.
You're anything but ordinary, Gladys.
For the last 15 years, she's also been an integral part of the Chippewa Valley Museum, helping paint after remodeling.
16-foot walls, and I painted them, and I was proud of it, to be able to climb up and down the ladder.
Cleaning and packing up exhibits.
If they need some muscles, they kind of they call me.
In past years, she even took over raising chicks for the Farm Life exhibit.
The fellow that had been doing the baby chicks for quite a few years, he turned 90 a couple of years ago, and he decided it was time to retire. There was nobody there to do the chicks, and I said, well, I would do them. I would go there every morning to clean out the coop and put out fresh water and fresh food.
Staff say Gladys keeps the wheels turning. She says it's just making friends.
Many friendships.
So many, they're already honoring her Jefferson Award.
Well, thank you.
Those friends say no matter the task, Gladys gets it done. For her, getting to help others is just a bonus.
The people make the place. You know, they're fun to be with. It isn't work. It's just fun to be there.
Well, Gladys says there are so many opportunities to volunteer in the Chippewa Valley, it doesn't make sense not to help out. Well, if you go to Durand, just about everybody will know the name Rick Wayne. Instead of asking what he's been involved in, the better question is, what hasn't he helped organize, create, or build in that town? Meet June's Jefferson Award volunteer, Rick Wayne.
Rick Wayne rarely sits still. He's recovering from surgery, so he doesn't have much of a choice right now. But he'd rather be working with kids, building something, or helping others. These photos and newspaper clippings are just a tiny fraction
Grand Marshals for the Fun Fest
of all the time and work he's given to the Durand community over the last 2 decades.
I've always got a crowd around me when I'm working with boys and girls.
He led the Durand Youth Fishing Contest for a couple years.
This one is 2004. We've always had over 250 children in it.
About a decade ago, he started his own club, the Bear Creek Kids, where children help monitor water quality and fish year-round.
Never forget this. In the wintertime, I always took them ice fishing once or twice, and this day the tip-ups were flying like you wouldn't believe, and almost every kid got a fish.
He's even been recognized by the DNR.
Working with kids in the outdoors.
Rick is the director of the Durand Area Food Pantry, but what he grows in his yard goes far beyond Durand.
What we can't sell on our little stand out front of the house, we send either the local food pantry or to Feed My People in Eau Claire.
Durand is part of Rick, and Rick and his family are part of Durand.
Here's where I laid the first block.
Over the last few years, he helped build the concession stand and dugouts at Bowerbilt Field.
And this is the laying of the last block.
That land donated decades ago by his grandparents. After years of serving others, Rick says he does it for all the memories.
Somebody asked me once, why do you do this? I looked at that lady and I says, something will happen today and you don't know when, where, or how, but you'll never forget it as long as you live.
Oh, Rick says his love of volunteering began when he joined a club like Big Brothers Big Sisters when he was in his 20s. And it's been a huge part of his life ever since. He adds there's no way he could do it without his wife, Sandy. Well, after a promise made to her late husband, a Colfax woman spent almost a decade supporting local veterans through an unofficial veterans group. Sally Johnson is July's winner of the Jefferson Award.
Every Wednesday at Eau Claire's Ellie Phillips Senior Center, you'll find Sally Johnson and her veteran friends.
I know everybody here could say something about this lady here, but I love the heck out of her.
Her Wednesday powwows aren't really a formal thing. They're part get-together, part support group, and sometimes part VA navigation help.
I know what it's like to try to prove to the VA what they have been through, one, and what they are going through, two.
It's all because of Sally's late husband, Glenn.
My husband was killed almost 8 years ago as a result of Agent Orange. It took me 2 years to prove that my husband died as a result of Agent Orange.
Who had served in Vietnam and suffered from PTSD long before that term was well known.
I knew that it was important for my husband to have me try to help his brothers because of how they were treated.
Years ago, she started making quilts to give to her veteran friends to honor their service.
Those that have served in Vietnam get the Vietnam Service Medal on their quilts.
She's done dozens now, but only half go to the veterans.
I make 2 of every one, and I keep one for my husband, and I donate the one to whoever I have chosen that it goes to.
Over the years, the group has grown both in size and in nature, from friends to more like family.
It's almost like seeing my husband here, because I look in their eyes and I can tell you who was in Vietnam, and I can tell you what they've been through.
Well, there are veterans, widows, and veterans' kids in the group as well. And Sally says she's grateful they've taken her children. Well, after the break, how a Dunn County man is honoring the dead and bringing beauty back into a Menominee cemetery tucked away and nearly forgotten. But first,
I just enjoy just staying busy after retired.
How a Wheeler family is helping maintain their small town post-retirement. That story still to come on our Jefferson Award special. Welcome back. When it comes to maintaining a small town, it's usually a small group of people that step up. That's the case in Wheeler, where one man is spending his retirement helping his wife and his hometown. Let's meet our August winner of the Jefferson Award, David Goodell.
Whether it's a new playground or trees cleared from a storm, if it's in Wheeler, David Goodell has probably had a hand in it.
All my life. I've lived there all my life.
His wife, Robin, has been the village clerk for about 35 years.
Retired and I just decided to help her.
Robin helped raise $75,000 for a new playground for the town. Then David helped put it together.
I want it to be nice so the kids and grandkids can play and people can have, be proud of their community.
It's a family affair for the Goodells. She's the village clerk. Their son Chris is the maintenance guy, and David serves as right-hand man for both of them.
He gets whammied on both sides.
He's not much of a talker.
I just enjoy just staying busy after retired.
He's more focused on getting it done.
You did all that.
Well, I didn't have a lot to do with it.
I mean, it was community. but when you couldn't get nobody else, Dave always came through.
Again, Goodell was our August winner of the Jefferson Award. Well, local nursing home residents, minors in detention, and inmates get music therapy and anger management classes, partially led by one woman, and her name is Liana Razor.
Liana Razor has always been the musician in her family. In college, she had to volunteer, and that's when she saw her first music therapy session.
I thought, man, this is what I've always wanted to do and never even knew existed.
Her passion ended up becoming her profession.
I love it. I love doing it. And students go with me, my colleagues go with me, my friends go with me,
Now she's 31 years in at UW-Eau Claire, which is a feat in and of itself, but she spends at least 20 hours a week volunteering, teaching music therapy at the local juvenile detention center, the Eau Claire County Jail, nursing homes, and hospitals.
Music helps them get in touch with their emotions.
Teaching others to use music for self-expression or reflection.
Some of them have said that it's really been a key that's helped them think about things in a different way and make a change.
Or even to spark memories.
In the nursing home, a lot of times people have confusion. They might have dementia. Even 6 months later, I could come in and play the intro to a song and they would play the exact rhythm pattern that was associated with it. So that's new short-term memory. The music wakes that up.
Always making a mark on the people she helps.
It makes me be fulfilled. I feel like every single day I'm doing something to make a change in somebody else's life that's really meaningful and beautiful.
She even brings her UWEC students so they can fall in love with music therapy the way she did. For privacy reasons, we couldn't be there for a session, but Liana found a way around that.
Can you come be with me?
Proving the unexplainable impact of a melody.
We're gonna raise it up. See, if you go from here, you're going higher in pitch, you have more emotion. Oh, honey, it's even worse than I thought.
Her goal is to keep spreading the healing power of music.
It's just very peaceful and relaxing.
To the people who really need it.
But then you're gonna say that you have hope for the future.
Her weekly schedule includes the Juvenile Detention Center, Sacred Heart Hospital, the Eau Claire County Jail, Prairie Point, and Chippewa Manor. Well, for decades, a little-known cemetery in Menominee sat overrun and uncared for. October's Jefferson Award winners honoring the dead by bringing a little beauty back to their final resting place.
It's easy to miss Pottersfield Cemetery in Menominee. In fact, it's actually harder to find.
No, you don't see anyone. A lot of airplanes taking off and landing, and there's the local red-tailed hawk.
Tucked next to the local airport with the only access through the Dunn County Highway Shop lot, Pottersfield holds a lot of history.
The first burial that we can definitely identify would be 1891.
Sophie Doan is a co-chair of the Friends of Pottersfield, a group aiming to restore and document the history here.
They're a huge part of our history. A lot of the people buried here, their stories are just beyond amazing.
The list includes Laura Ingalls Wilder's aunt, bank robbers, and alleged mobsters. Nearly all the graves unmarked. The long-abandoned graveyard was in need of some serious TLC. That's where Paul Arnson came in.
We hit it pretty hard.
Paul's been blessed with 2 green thumbs. He has a degree in horticulture and spent his working years helping Eau Claire's Bollinger Fields bloom.
I am retired. Busier than ever, but I made time for this.
This past summer, he planted a dozen trees and a number of shrubs and flowers, all of it to help polish this hidden gem.
In someone else's mind, they just think you're out digging in the dirt. Whereas yourself, it's joyful.
It's the definition of thankless work, bringing beauty to a burial ground many will never see. But for Paul, there is personal satisfaction in helping those who have long been forgotten.
There's no established church that's maintaining this or even remembering who the people are, and I would like that to be part of my work here.
Paul's work was more about than moving dirt. He even built his own water wagon to help the plants grow. However, the job is far from over. Paul plans to be back, making sure Pottersfield remains pristine. Well, more inspiring stories still to come, including community members that go above and beyond around the holiday season.
Every kid should have Christmas. And this is what it's all about.
Sometimes you don't know what to give, so we give the gift of love through our cookies.
We'll meet cookie makers Dale and Sandy Passernich and Aliva Strum's Mrs. Claus. But first, learn more about News 18's partnership with Marshfield Clinic. That story right after the break. For 8 years now, News 18 has partnered with the Marshfield Clinic to recognize these Jefferson Award winners that are making a difference in the lives of others and inspiring all of us to give back in new ways. Well, joining us right now is Chief Administration Officer Bill Priest, who is going to share a little bit more about this partnership. Bill, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me, Shannon. I appreciate it.
Of course. So go ahead and just tell me a little bit about yourself and your affiliation with Marshfield Clinic.
Well, thank you. Yes, my name is Bill Priest. As you mentioned, I'm the Chief Administrative Officer for the Marshfield Clinic Health System here in Eau Claire. I'm fairly new to that role. Have just come into the role in the last couple of months. Originally from Eau Claire, and glad to be back here in town. It's a great community to live in and to be a part of.
Of course. So why does Marshfield Clinic want to be a part of the Jefferson Awards?
You know, Marshfield Clinic Health System is a not-for-profit, mission-based organization that's been around for over 100 years. And, you know, Marshfield Clinic Health System is in all of our communities in central Wisconsin, northern Wisconsin, and western Wisconsin. And, you know, we enjoy being a part of this organization and celebration because it's something that gives back to the community. It celebrates our community members. It celebrates those who are working to make our communities better. And, you know, in today's world where so much is stressful, there's a lot of strife, we're all living through this COVID-19 situation. You know, it's nice to focus on those things that are good, people that are doing some great volunteer work, some great works to help make our communities better. So we're really pleased to be a part of it.
Of course, yeah. The COVID-19 pandemic has, you know, put a halt on a lot of volunteering and things, but we're still glad that we can still work with Marshfield Clinic to make these Jefferson Awards happen. So what is Marshfield's mission in this partnership with News 18?
You know, Marshfield's mission is to give back to our communities, to provide rural health care to all the communities that we serve. And, you know, here in the Chippewa Valley, you know, we obviously have our facility here in Eau Claire, the Eau Claire Medical Center, which is really the hub of our hospital and our specialty clinics. But we also have clinics and medical activities throughout the Chippewa Valley. So we have clinics in Chippewa Falls, in Cadott, in Menominee, in Bloomer, and throughout the region here. So we want to give back to our communities. We support our staff who work to give back to the communities. And we appreciate being a part of the Jefferson Awards because, again, it's celebrating those kinds of folks that are doing great things to help make our communities better. And that's part of what the Marshfield Clinic Health System mission is.
And as you said, you have locations across the Chippewa Valley in this region in general. So do you think that really helps, you know, being a part of the Jefferson Award Committee and making the decision to choose our monthly winners?
Oh, I certainly think it does. You know, we want to be part of the communities that we're in, and our staff live in these communities as well. So, you know, in the Chippewa Valley here, we have over 1,200 providers and over 1,100 employees. So our staff is a big part of the communities that we live in, and we want to contribute and be part of giving back to those communities. And that's really what the Jefferson Award is about. And, you know, it's great to talk about things that are fun and uplifting and recognizing people who have done things that really make our communities better.
Of course. So describe a little bit about, you know, what Marshfield does in this partnership with News 18. What do you bring to the table as an organization?
You know, we bring to the table, obviously, our staff and our community presence in each of those communities that we work in. You know, it's enjoyable to do those things that are fun, that are uplifting, as I mentioned. But from a Marshfield Clinic perspective, it aligns with our values. It aligns with our values of being integrated with our communities. Marshfield Clinic Health System has been around for over 100 years and has been in rural Wisconsin for that time period. And so, you know, we're embedded in our communities, we're a part of our communities, and we want to contribute and give back to those communities. And that's partly what what the Jefferson Award recognizes. So it really fits well with our values and with our mission with Marshfield Clinic. The Marshfield Clinic Health System and the Jefferson Award really go together nicely.
Of course, and just one more question for you, Bill. What are you most looking forward to being a part of this Jefferson Awards committee that we have?
You know, I admitted to you earlier that, you know, I've only been back here in the area for a couple of months, so I haven't had the chance to participate in all of the picking of the awards, although I'm familiar with it enough to know that there are a lot of deserving people as a part of this, and their stories are really amazing. Trying to pick one winner out of this group, if you will, they're all winners, no matter how you want to look at it. It's a very difficult task, so I don't envy that of anyone, but it's awful fun to hear the stories, and it's awful, it makes you feel good to hear what people are doing for their community.
All right, Bill. Well, thank you again so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Shannon. Have a great day.
You too. Well, our next Jefferson Award goes to a husband and wife who've spent dozens of years baking dozens of cookies for those who need a little extra love during the holidays. Let's meet Dale and Sandy Parsons.
And they look good.
In 1979, Dale and Sandy Parsons gifted a dozen Christmas cookies to provide comfort for their nephew Brian.
and he was in Rochester, Minnesota, having some major surgery.
Those first 12 cookies of compassion spurred a tradition of giving that grew beyond their family tree.
Now we make 520 dozen, that was last year.
All of which end up in the hands of those who've given.
They've given, nobody recognizes, and we want to say, we saw that. That was cool.
Or are struggling with misfortune or loss in our area.
We give to the Soul General Home in Beacon and Bolton, just really anyone that needs help.
But crafting comfort comes at a cost.
I'm thinking $1,200 to $1,400 for us to bake.
All of it out of their own pockets. The family even invested in a second oven and fridge to speed up the cookie baking process. But Dale and Sandy don't do it all alone.
I don't really have a choice. It's one of those things where, Kayla, you're helping.
Their daughter Kayla is the master of recipes and the brains behind the bulk of ingredients.
I'll look at previous years, how much we've used, and then go off from that.
And the baking has only gotten bigger over the years. But the time and determination is not what keeps this effort going. It's the happiness it brings to those who enjoy their sweet selflessness.
But then you go back to the car and say, oh my gosh, she's so happy. So that was the fun part, yeah.
And those smiles and tears of joy are the only ingredients this family needs to keep those cookies coming.
Sometimes you don't know what to give, so we give the gift of love through our cookies, and that's all we have.
The family spends about a week delivering all the cookies they've made. They've even had help from UW-Eau Claire students to help lighten the load. Well, and speaking of the holidays, they can bring out the best in us. And that's an understatement for one Aliva Strum educator. December's Jefferson Award winner, in the words of her students and coworkers, is an angel in disguise.
We just got to the store.
Every holiday season, a handful of helpers hit the stores to buy gifts for kids in need. But they aren't doing it for Santa. Instead, it's for the Mrs. Claus of the Aliva Strum School District.
What is this, a snake? No, monkey.
Debbie Wright's flown with the Cardinals for nearly 20 years.
I'm an aide in the classrooms to help kids with special needs or kids having difficulty learning.
But her help goes beyond her duties within the district, especially during the holiday season.
Christmas from the Heart started probably 16 years ago when we were given names of families that weren't able to have Christmas because they just didn't have any money.
So Debbie rallied the community for help so the families could have their Christmas. From there, the idea has blossomed into an annual tradition of giving that starts with a handful of hearts.
Hearts go on the tree that look like this,
each holding a wish from a family in need. Then, with their parents' permission, a child can take a heart home and answer that family's holiday wish.
Like this one is a domino game.
This year, more than 30 families had their wishes granted.
Every child gets an outfit, pajamas, underclothing, and socks, a game, family game for the whole family, and then they all get a toy that they wish for.
But that's not all. With the help of local farmers, nonprofits, and churches, every family is given a box of food along with winter clothing and blankets.
We've had a lot of tears this year. In fact, I had a dad come and pick up presents, and I got tears in my eyes because he broke down and cried because he said, I just feel so foolish, but my kids couldn't have Christmas this year without this help.
Debbie says Christmas from the Heart is growing every year with more people giving now than ever before.
Every kid should have Christmas. And this is what it's all about. And I think there's so much love in our communities, and God taught us faith, hope, and love, and the greatest is love, and this is how we're showing it.
Well, Debbie says she keeps her ears open to make sure nobody is left without a Christmas and will always answer last-minute wishes. Well, after the break, we'll announce this year's local Jefferson Award winner and revisit our winner from 2018. Those stories are just 1 minute away. Keep it here. Our 2018 national winner volunteered to run towards danger. Jack Running has made it his job to help his community when disaster strikes. For 46 years, Jack has volunteered at the Township Fire Department, the last 22 years as the fire chief.
It's all thermal protection.
Since an early age, Jack Running knew he wanted to give back.
I grew up in a farm family back up around Cameron, and up there it was always help your neighbor. And so that was probably the interest that it was, is just trying to help the neighbors out.
So at 25, despite working more than 40 hours a week at a local phone company, Jack decided to spend even more time keeping his community safe.
I like the busyness of it. I like being involved.
And he's stayed busy. Jack has spent 20 to 30 hours a week for the past 45 years volunteering for Township Fire. For the last 21, He served as his fire chief.
It's in your blood. Once you get started with it, it's hard to shake it.
Jack oversees 5 stations, more than 30 vehicles, and the training and management of more than 100 volunteer firefighters.
Personally, if there was never another fire call, I'd be happy because nobody's being hurt, but they're going to happen. The training that is provided is the same as a career department. Fire doesn't know the difference, so you need to be trained to the same standards.
Jack is much more than a volunteer. He also has shaped what Township Fire is today. In 1980, he started EmergiCare, a first response organization that covers the more than 200 square miles in the 5 townships.
Last year, the calls that we had, I believe, were just a little over 1,000 calls.
On top of all of that, Jack has also taught fire training at local tech colleges and held or holds leadership roles in multiple statewide firefighter associations.
It just gives you a good feeling. If you like to help your neighbor, like to do things for your community, this is one good way to do it.
Jack is now officially retired from his daytime job, but he has no plans to stop leading the department.
I was proud of what I did, and still I'm proud of what I do. I enjoy what I do. I want to do it as long as I can. I think that kind of keeps me going.
Now, Jack is quick to point out that it's a team effort at the Township Fire Department, and no one can accomplish anything alone. Township Fire is always looking for more volunteers. Well, before we introduce you to our national award winner, we want you to meet our Cooley regional winner. An orthopedist at Gunderson Health System, Dr. Virginia Winterstein has volunteered for years, providing opportunities for children and adults with disabilities.
Hi, Desiree. How you doing?
Just one visit.
Okay, and then back up. And then squat down again. Okay.
In a day full of visits.
Can you turn around for me?
For Dr. Virginia Winterstein.
I want you to turn around just one time, all right? I'm just going to lift up your shirt to look at your back for scoliosis, okay?
Today, she's examining a courageous girl named Desiree, who's had a number of surgeries to treat a rare bone disorder.
Doesn't hurt anymore? No. Okay, we'll take a real close look at your x-ray there.
Ginny, as she's known, loves her job. And you might say, she loves her patients, too.
I think that I'm kind of an old school. I really take ownership for my patients.
Many of her patients have special needs, and they have a special place in Ginny's heart.